That's kind of where the metaphor goes astray here. Once more, there's another phenomena researchers think is going on here. This phenomena or this mechanism hasn't been fully studied yet or fully understood yet, but researchers suspect that stretching also induces a sense of analgesia. That's basically a state where you feel less pain, as if you took painkillers. And so researchers first stumbled upon this phenomena when they were doing this series of studies. Basically, in these experiments, students at a college were doing these passive leg races. Basically, what that means was there was a machine that was strapped to their leg, and basically this machine would raise their leg forward as if they were kicking a ball, and they would keep on raising it until the subject felt pain. Couldn't go further, right? And so experiments would raise their leg until the student felt pain, and then they would measure how far that leg traveled and how much force it took to move that leg that distance. So then what they did is then they had those students do some hamstring stretches and do the experiment again. And so what researchers found out is students who did the hamstring stretches were able to do the passive leg raises, meaning the machine was able to flex their leg even further. But what the kicker was, it took more force to raise that leg further before they felt the same amount of pain. So what that suggested to researchers was that muscles were not getting stretchier. Those students were just not feeling the pain nearly as soon in that leg raise. So they had a higher tolerance to that pain. That is analgesic effect to stretching. And so researchers believe that stretching is bringing on this kind of painkiller effect. And this is actually masking the onset of injury to people who stretch before doing workouts. So potentially people are still getting injured, but they're not really figuring it out when they get injured because of this painkiller effect. Researchers also predict this is what happens when people get deep muscle massages or use those rollers to roll out their limbs. People say those feel good, and this could be related to this analgesic effect of stretching muscle. So in conclusion, studies overall show there's no real correlation between stretching and muscle injury prevention. The idea of increasing your range of motion by making your muscles more compliant or more stretchy doesn't make the sense in the way of injury prevention. Less compliant muscles, aka more compliant muscles, aka stretchier muscles, tend to break more easily. Furthermore, there could be this pain-killing effect that's induced by stretching that could lead people to believe that they're not injuring themselves when they really could be. And overall, if you're looking for muscle injury prevention, it's really about strengthening your muscles, making your muscles thicker and stiffer, and that's all about, muscle hypertrophy. Trying to get your muscles, in shape and stronger will help prevent muscle injury. That's it. That's my example for you guys. So that's kind of the idea of what you should be looking for. Thank you. That's kind of the idea of what you're looking for in your podcast. You're taking something that's physiologically relevant. You're taking papers, you're breaking it down for them, and you're explaining it to them. And hopefully it's something that's interesting for you to do, and it's going to be interesting for people to listen to, because what's going to happen is eventually you're going to turn your podcast or your VOD or whatever, and I'm going to have other students watch them and listen to them. And we're going to have People's Choice Award. Someone's going to win best podcast in this class. There'll be an award, and it's going to be amazing. And so just keep that in mind. This is going to be this is a semester. This is going to last us all the way until week 16. And so this is something you should keep in the back of your mind. This is something you should be working on. And if you're curious, all the information I got, worked for me, came from these 3 papers. All the things I showed you just came from these 3 papers. And so it may seem like a lot of information, but it only came from 3 papers. So this is kind of what you should be shooting for. I don't know how long that was. Actually, it was about 20 minutes, but anyways. Any questions about the semester project? Your first assignment is due next Friday. Turn it in via the discussion board, description of it. It's on the discussion board, it's on the assignment, it's on the assignment description PDF, it's on multiple places. So you can go check it out. If you have questions, you can ask me later. Alright, let's get back to endocrinology. So we last left off, we were talking about the pituitary gland. This is really what we consider the master gland in the whole body. And so what controls the pituitary gland is the hypothalamus, is part of the brain. And so there was, between the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary gland was this portal vein system. And portal vein systems are very special in physiology. There's only 3 of them found in the whole body, and this is one of them. So the idea is, in a portal vein system, and this specific one, the hypothalamus has these neurons that dump neurohormones into this, the first capillary bed of the portal system. They would travel down these veins and would enter the second capillary bed, and these hormones would then affect these endocrine cells found in the anterior pituitary gland, and then they would eventually send out their own hormone through these veins that would then go to the rest of the body. And so this portal system is just basically 2 capillary beds in series, one after another. So how does this work? So the idea is this. The idea is these neurons put together some, man, there's a lot of sneezing and coughing going around. I need to get my flu shot. These neurons put out a hormone that induce these endocrine cells in the pituitary gland, in the anterior pituitary gland, to put out another hormone. And so because of that, the hormones put out by the hypothalamus are often called tropic hormones. The reason that is, tropic means food, or food chain. This kind of represents, a food chain in an ecosystem, right? There's the, apex predator, in red level predator, and then the producers. The idea here is there's one hormone that is being sent to another place to set off another hormone. That's right. That's the kind of idea of tropic hormones. And then pituitary gland puts out a whole bunch of hormones. It puts out one called prolactin that helps with milk production. It puts out hormone, it's abbreviated as GH, but that is growth hormone. In endocrinology, there's a lot of abbreviations. There's a lot of acronyms, and they all stand for some kind of hormone. So I don't require you to know these acronyms, but it's always a good habit to getting to recognize these hormone names. You'll probably see them somewhere in your future, regardless of your career. You'll see at least a couple of these. So growth hormone, as you can kind of guess, induces growth, induces hypertrophy of muscles and various other things. Then we have the ever so important thyroid stimulating hormone that targets your thyroid to produce thyroid hormone. That's why it's called thyroid stimulating hormone. A lot of these names make sense if you just kind of understand the name. Then we have, this one's a long one, this is adrenocorticotropic hormone. That's a mouthful, but basically what it does, it, based off its name, it targets the adrenal cortex, right, adrenocortico, and it's a tropic hormone because it then targets the adrenal cortex to produce another hormone, which is usually some kind of steroid hormone. So hence the name adrenocorticotropic. Then you have some gonadotropin hormones. Gonadotropin hormones is basically hormones that target the gonads, target the sex organs. And they come in 2 flavors. You have LH, which is called the luteinizing hormone, and the follicle stimulating hormone. These will have first of all target different organs based off whether you're a male or female, and they will have different effects depending whether you're male or female. And so generally, this is what the pathway will look like, right? The hypothalamus will then put out a tropic hormone. This is called GHRH, that is growth hormone releasing hormone. I know it has the word hormone twice, but just go with it. That's what the researchers wanted to call it. These hormones will then travel through the portal system to the anterior pituitary gland, which they will then target endocrine cells there. those endocrine cells, once they get the message, will produce their own hormone and put it out there. They'll put in what we call IGFs, which are insulin-like growth factors. They're like growth. They're just a subset of the growth hormones. That will then travel out of the pituitary gland into the bloodstream, into the systemic circulation of the body. They will eventually make it to the liver, and they will then trigger a release of another hormone. And sorry, that one is called insulin-like growth factors. The one before here was called, the one here was called growth factors, and they induce insulin-like growth factors, which will then, make some kind of response. They'll target tissues like bone, muscle, and they'll create growth or whatnot. So this is a general endocrinic pathway to basically bring about growth in the body. And so notice a couple things here. One, there are 3 integrating centers here. Remember when we were combining the neural reflex and endocrine reflex? Well, this is it, right? We have our neural reflex right here, and then we have our endocrine cells here, and this has 3 integrating centers. So this is it. This is where you see this. Also, this is a cascade effect, right? Each time a hormone, binds here, there's going to be a signal transduction. There's going to be a cascade. There's going to be amplification. That's going to bring a response. That response is going to be production of a hormone. That hormone is going to travel to the bloodstream, target some liver cell. Same thing's going to happen. Signal transduction. It's going to be a cascade. It's going to be amplification, which will lead to a response to the cell, which will be probably putting out